Chapter 16. Chrome was seen walking through a city of desolate buildings, wondering if this was the rumored ruined city Oddfield, which he thought looked like how people described it. But the people he saw looked quite normal, although he used the place as a test to see if he could enter a town with the masquerade skill and find a dungeon. But he felt amazing being among humans again. But he doesn't like how other people look at him, so he goes out and buys some clothes to cover his face. Because he can stay in his monster form for 6 hours while maintaining the masquerade skill, he considered finding an inn to rest safely. However, he needed money first, so he went to the Adventurer Guild and met a certain bald man, whom he told that he wanted to sell his magic stone for monsters above level 20. But the bald man was surprised that Chrome, who appeared weak, could obtain such levels of magic stone. Chrome thought the amount the magic stones fetch would last him a long time, but the bald man said the 3 magic stones were only worth 5 gold. Chrome was taken aback when the bald man said that he could easily get more than 10 times that amount in the capital, to which the bald man replied that maybe he could, but they were in Oddfield, a town of social outcasts, and that he was certain Chrome stole the magical stones, to which Chrome flatly refused. However, the bald man stated that their guild does not ask for a person's name or adventurer's plate, nor do they inquire about their background or how people obtain their magical stones, and why he doesn't blame Chrome for wearing clothes that appear to be stained with human blood. The bald man then asked Chrome if he wanted to take the magical stones elsewhere, warning him that he might not make it out of the city alive. Chrome had no choice but to accept the money, knowing he'd be out of money in 2 days as he walked out of the guild. He knew the bald man knew he was new in town and couldn't bargain, because he didn't know much about the city. By the time he exited the guild, he had met a young man who introduced himself as Jeff. Chrome was startled when he saw him, and Jeff reassured him that he didn't need to be afraid of him, because he was well known in the Oddfield Guild. So he knew he had cheated as an outsider, and he thought Chrome should learn about the rules of the place. When Chrome heard this, he wondered if Jeff was a nice guy, but when Jeff saw that he had gotten Chrome's attention, he immediately grabbed him by the collar and backed him up against the wall, threatening Chrome to hand over his money, saying that he would protect him. However, Chrome was flustered by the sudden turn of events, as he wondered what was wrong with everyone living in Oddfield City. He then shoved Jeff away, saying he doesn't need his help. However, Jeff was dumbfounded when he realized such a crazy strength from Chrome. Other adventurers who were watching mocked Jeff, saying he got kicked by a brat. However, Chrome realized that Jeff was only about level 20. Jeff was enraged as he was mocked by others. He then drawn his sword out as he attempted to attack Chrome, but was stopped by others who told him that it doesn't not worth it. However, Jeff insisted, saying that he was made a fool of by Chrome, who kicked Jeff's sword away and flee. Chrome knew he could defeat Jeff, but he didn't want to draw attention to himself, so he quickly left the scene. However, when he got to an alley, he remembered how he was swindled and extorted when he first arrived in the city, which didn't sit well with him. Chrome was seen in a room at an inn after reverting back to his monster form and wondering why he was getting exhausted faster than when he was in the dungeon. But he only realized he was broke after obtaining a rusty dagger for 240 gold and an old robe for 60 gold, both of which were stolen goods, and after paying the inn fee of 110 gold. He also couldn't get a shared room to save money because he needed to undo his skill to recover mana. But he wanted to stay a little longer because it had been a long time since he had been in a human settlement. But he needed to gather information about dungeons and leave before people found out about him, and he had already confirmed that he could enter human cities with his skill then. An elderly Reverend Father was seen questioning Shelley about the money she brought, to which she replied that he should not be concerned because she is a promising newcomer to the capital. The Reverend Father then told her that the money was a big help for them and that she had gotten out of there and was making a living, saying that it would be better if Shelley could forget about them and focus on her life, but Shelley refused, saying she could never forget the church that raised her after she was orphaned by the dungeon disaster, and that she now has little sisters and brothers in the church, at which point one of the little boys asked Shelley if she was now a famous adventurer, which she confirmed. The little boy then asked her if she could close a dungeon disaster hole, to which she replied that she would be able to someday. She then said goodbye to the children and the Reverend Father, promising to return, but the Reverend Father warned her to be careful, because being an adventurer is dangerous. Chrome was seen walking in the middle of the city with his head covered, as he hasn't been able to find any information about dungeons as everyone just tries to trick him. He even considered going to the capital, but couldn't because he looked suspicious, and the guards would immediately stop him, in which only this city allowed him to walk around in daylight, which is why he concluded that Oddfield is much safer for him. On the way, he ran into Shelley, who recognized him and said he was the one who saved them from the dungeon disaster. Chrome was taken aback. Chapter 17. Shelley was glad to see Chrome again, as she said she didn't think they'd see each other again so soon, but Chrome was also visibly shocked. But he remembered her name, Shelley Schultz, and that she was a level 18, who was quite a reliable mid-rank adventurer, which made him wonder why such an accomplished adventurer is in the city, as he remembered that the two other adventurers don't look like criminals. But he knew he would mess up if he continued discussing with her, so he immediately ran away, saying that Shelley had got the wrong person. Shelley was shocked when he saw Chrome run away again, but she remembered what Frank said about the possibility of Chrome being a criminal, as she wondered what Chrome was doing in such a place as Oddfield. But she ran after him saying that she wouldn't pry into his past, and that all she wanted to do was thank him for saving her and others. When Chrome saw Shelley running after him, he assumed she knew he was a monster, so he picked up his pace and eventually got away from her. When Shelley realized she'd lost him, she wondered why he was so quick, thinking he was a high-level adventurer. Shelley wondered where Chrome had gone. Chrome realized after a while that he had reached a dead end, but he thought that if he used his physical ability and claws as a shapeshifter, he could make it over the wall and lose her for sure. Since there was no one around, his hands had turned into claws, and he then started to scale through the wall, and as he was about to scale through the wall, his dagger fell down, causing him to hurt his back. However, Shelley eventually saw him, leading Chrome to believe that he had been apprehended. However, she apologized for chasing after him, to which Chrome replied that she shouldn't worry because it was his own fault, and then asked Shelley if she was going to pry into him, to which Shelley replied that she would not because he was her savior, and she was certain that he had his own circumstances. Then Shelley asked what his name was, to which he replied, Chrome Kink, thinking it was a bad idea to tell her his name. Then Chrome asked Shelley why she was in Oddfield, to which she replied that it was her hometown. When he heard this, he remembered what Frank said the other time, so Chrome asked Shelley to tell him more about Oddfield, to which she explained that it was a beautiful place many years ago, that it wasn't particularly prosperous, but it was a pleasant town, and that the dungeon near the town is known as the Hole of Disaster. But when she was young, the dungeon began to change from a dungeon disaster. Monsters began to swarm the city, and anyone with status or money fled, cutting off contact with other cities. Not long after, it became a gathering place for outlaws with nowhere else to go, resulting in the ruined city everyone is familiar with. However, the outlaws may protect the town from monsters, but they only see the previous inhabitants as nothing more than slaves. However, the Reverend Father and a young boy were seen together, and as the young boy demonstrated his newly acquired magic skill to the Reverend Father, they heard some footsteps, and when they both checked who was at the entrance, they saw Jeff and other outlaws saying that they needed slaves and pleading with the Reverend Father not to turn them